I like to give it a good little minute here. I don't like it in video, but I tell you, I really like the fact that I know it's recording and I'm not crazy. All right.
I see it.
You see it recording?
It says recording, so we're good.
Good. All right. Hey, it's just a conversation. Don't freak out. Okay. Got your butterflies yet?
Yes.
Good, 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 good. All right. So I told you I always get nervous at this point. I just don't want to screw up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But hey, you and I have had lots of discussions, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So welcome, Stephanie Higginbotham, to the Dansby Family Wellness Podcast show. I don't know what I'm gonna call it. It's just content that I produce for families, especially parents. Is what it's geared to, so that I can showcase or highlight or find, like, you were one of my previous coaching clients, and I've talked to doctors, nutritionists, nurse practitioners, personal trainers, but also clients, because I like people to see what it's like on both sides of the fence, what it's like to be a patient, what it's like to be a client. And I want parents to see ways that they can relate to people and find their fit in as a client, what would work for them. And hopefully they can relate and learn from your mistakes and also your victories, and be inspired and encouraged by your story or someone else's story that I interview, in a way that it gets them moving, gets their health right, and so they start getting into that. So I always introduce everybody in one regard of, you know great person. I get into the depths of people, then I always drop something funny. So um Stephanie, of course, is a coaching client. She's really, I met her through my wife, which worked with her at a nurse practitioner's office in Laurel. And it
but
wasn't
how
like,
did I meet Lori? How did I meet Lori before that?
oh yes, you're right. I see. I don't know you through that. Like, I knew of you through your first birth, that you met. My
Yeah,
wife was, and you got me going back a few years, as a,
that's right.
she was your labor and delivery nurse for Lily, right?
She was, but I was in labor for so long that she missed the birth because she was off shift.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I heard about you. I didn't hear about your name because HIPAA and blah blah blah. But she said, I met someone today that I really like, and I could see being friends with her outside of it. And I was like, cool. And then I kind of heard about you off and on through a long time before we actually met or even got to know each other as a friendship type thing. But yeah, it was really through, I guess I met you, like, you were just there at the office whenever I was there with her. I don't
Yep.
I don't know. And what's real funny is I went to one of Josh's, your husband. I went to his concealed carry course, and he and I were the only one there. Everybody else pulled a no show on, and that's wrong. They did that because he had great content. We had a great time, and I got to meet him without ever, in the same setting as you. Like, just rolled up and met him. So we kind of, I knew about everybody, and then we just met each other. But Stephanie, really, as a coaching client, I want everybody to know she. We rarely talked about nutrition. We we really talked about, like, her biggest, I'd say, struggle, but and she, as she learned throughout the process, her biggest strength. And as we talked and we just intuitively approached every coaching session, it was, I learned a lot from coaching you in a way, because I can relate to a lot of the same things. I just went through the same things that you were going through at that time, at a different point in my life. And it's amazing how I was able to see that, like, because I believe we attract the people to us that we, that we're going through the same thing, or we've been through the same thing, and I feel like we have a responsibility to people. And it was really
Mm-hmm.
amazing that we may have talked about, like, I sent you my cookbook and my nutrition plan and my recipes, and, like, it menu for eating out, and that was about it. And then we just talked about, things that were lifestyle factors. And I was really amazed. Like, that was the first health coaching client that I didn't just talk about this food or that food, and I'm just like, this is so like awesome, but
It
different.
was
And
so great though, because it was completely tailored to what I needed at that time. Like, I remember going into it and telling you, hey, I want to try this out because I want to get more in shape and I need to lose 15 pounds. And like you said, we talked about that a little bit, but
yeah.
my hang up wasn't really all the food and all the nutrition. It was the mental block
Mm-hmm.
of everything
Yep.
else that was shutting that down. And when I could get past that,
Yep.
then everything was better.
Right. Yeah. And you can tackle it and get through it. It was really, really unique, and I enjoyed that. So I want you to share from your perspective so people get to know you from birth until now. And I know that's a massive, wide topic, but really, I want to know about, the way it would relate as a child first and as a child of parents. And that seems like, duh, yeah. But some of us didn't have parents in the home. If they were parents, they weren't there, or they, like, my mother was on drugs and she didn't take me home from the hospital, and they cut me out of her. And my grandparents took me home from the hospital. So my actual mother did not do the, oh, I got a fly moving in here. It's weird. But my mother didn't do the work. She wasn't my mom. She birthed me, but she gave me more trauma than she did. So when I say being a child of a parent, I mean, like, we all were shaped by our parents, and that's critical. And I think everybody should see that and be able to relate to it. So just walk us through from birth through, your childhood, how your health was, how you ate, what caused, any type of health issues, or what were your strengths, and just anything you feel relevant that would help parents and be a better parent, especially a better mom. And, even at the point of just being aware with your kid and things of that nature.
Yeah. Um, I think, like, the benefit of now is that we know so much more. Like, I feel like our generation, good or bad, for whatever's going on in the world, that we are more aware. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. But I think with our parents, it was just a completely different time. It was a time of fast food, it was a time of you trusted everything that your doctor said, and everything was done a certain way. Breastfeeding wasn't big then.
Right.
I was one of the only ones, like, when I started nursing my babies, I think my cousin may have been, and maybe her mom may have been the only one on that side of my family who had done it. So it was different. And I feel like it's more commonplace now than it was then. So I didn't have that. Um, and I won't go into like all of the geeked out medical things that I've learned just since I've had kids, but um, I was a C-section baby, so started off with that. And now my mom always cooked. I had good meals every day. My mom cooked. When I was 7, my parents divorced. So it was just me and my mom. And I don't ever remember, I didn't go to the doctor a lot. My mom didn't run me to the doctor all the time. But I do remember, no fault of hers, just the times that we were in. If you were ever sick, you took an antibiotic. Like, you
Yeah.
just did.
Yeah. That's what the doctors
Um,
prescribed.
yeah. Is you have a sniffle, here, have an antibiotic. You have an earache, antibiotic.
Yeah.
And, now we know that's detrimental to your gut.
You're right.
So I see in my kids have both had issues with their gut. My husband has issues with his gut, um, probably hereditary on both of our sides. And I don't know a whole lot about my parents and their health and how it affects mine. I know that, like I said, whenever I was younger, my mom cooked all the time. Um, I didn't eat a bunch of junk. I did drink way more soda than I should.
Yeah. We
But
all
other than
did.
that, like, Yeah, and my mom's family, they're all, relatively healthy. They all have good metabolism. I was blessed with that at least.
Yeah.
Um, and, I when I got into high school, I don't know why I had an interest in health food, but I did. And so pretty much whenever I was about 15 or 16 and working age, I cooked for myself. And my mom was like, I don't know where you came from, because she likes meat and potatoes and gravy and all this stuff. And I would be cooking baked chicken and green beans and salad. And I did that for myself. And I feel like that probably helped me through that time period. I
Yeah.
don't remember ever being sick a lot or having any doctor's appointments, but then college hits. And we all know in
Yeah.
college, you're on a very limited budget.
Yeah.
And you're like, what can I buy for this dollar I have in my checking account? So, a lot of McDonald's and Wendy's
Yeah.
and whatever to get by. Um, Again, never really was sick a whole lot. I feel like probably normal sick, a cold here and there, a stomach bug here and there. And it wasn't until after college, whenever I was working my first job, that I started having some hormonal issues and didn't really know what was going on at that point in time. Just was really tired a lot, really unfocused a lot, and thought, well, I mean, it's just a different time in my life. I'm working an 8 to 5 job.
Yeah.
Um, work my first tax season. That's all it is. It's fine though. And got my first hormone test done, and they said, oh, well, I mean, you're just borderline fatigued and just no big deal. No one made a big deal about it. Trucked along, ended up moving to Jackson. And when I was in Jackson, I really started tuning in to myself and how I felt. And I'm sure that's because, I mean, I was in Jackson pretty much by myself. Only one of my friends lived there. Um, and I just was like, I don't feel right pretty much all the time. I don't feel right. And so went to a practitioner, again, had the base tests run. Oh, you're fine. All your labs look good. You're good. Like, yeah, but I want to sleep all the time, just all the time.
Yeah.
And, still no one checked my thyroid at that point.
Hmm.
No one checked any of the major things that you would think to check. Maybe now, I don't know if it was the time period or what the deal was, but we're talking probably a little over 10 years ago. And so a friend of mine suggested another doctor. After this first doctor was like, well, you say you feel bad, but everything looks fine. So at that point in my life, I just trusted he is a medical professional.
Hmm.
I'm going to go with what he says.
Hmm.
And I was on an anxiety medication. I was on a sleeping pill. I was on some kind of hormone cream and a thyroid pill.
Wow.
And I wasn't even 30.
Yeah.
So I went and saw this new healthcare provider, and she sat down and she basically asked me what you just did. Tell me about your life from birth.
Right.
And I almost hit the floor. I was like, wow, like you want to know about me.
Mm-hmm.
And we started talking through all these things, and I just started to cry. I was like, you're the first medical professional who's listened to me.
It cared.
She asked me what I was taking, and I opened my purse, and she said, why are you taking all of this? Like, absolutely not. These are Band-Aids. And she proceeded to throw 3 of them in the garbage right there.
That's
And
good.
she said, you keep taking this thyroid pill until we check you, but everything else is fine.
Wow.
And so subsequent to that, she did tell me that she thought a lot of my focus issues were basically ADD or ADHD. Now, she didn't test me for that, but everything lined up with that. And she said, I think that and your thyroid is part of your problem. So she, we went through the whole process. She was not holistic really in any way. She was open to that, but didn't treat that way.
Gotcha.
So I just trucked on with this thyroid pill, never really feeling a whole lot better for all those years, um, until I moved back here. And that's when I met my provider and who I saw at the time. I don't know if you want me to like names or not,
It's fine with
but
me. Yeah, names are
I
good.
was seeing, I was seeing Kimberly Cave at the time. I met her through another like random how you and I met and how Lori and I met.
Yeah.
I had just had my first baby and I ate like complete garbage because that's what you think you're supposed to do when you're pregnant.
Yeah. A lot of people believe that.
And yeah, I mean, you know, you look back like, what is it? Know better, do better. If I had known better, I mean, I ate cheese on a stick and grilled cheese sandwiches
Yeah.
and cheese pizza. Like that's what I ate, and then wonder why I ended up with preeclampsia. Um, but I met her and was just telling her about like what was going on in my life, and she's the first person who really started digging and investigating and saying, "It's your gut. It's this. It's that. We need to treat this. We need to manage your stress. We need to do all of these things."
Right.
And just putting it in the whole package that really made me see. And I almost for a while became overboard paranoid with it. Like I couldn't let anything bad touch my plate.
I understand.
I have since learned that even that stressed me out.
Right. It does.
Yeah. So that wasn't really helping me either. But she kind of got me. She was the first person to actually check and tell me that I had an autoimmune disorder that was causing my problem. So that helped us manage. Um, Whenever I guess I'll kind of keep this in a timeline
Mhm.
format. I then got pregnant with my son and said, "Okay, we're going to do things differently this time." And she's like, "Oh, yes, we are. Like, you're not going to go back down that train wreck where you were." And I was completely committed to a healthy diet. So, grilled chicken and salads and took my vitamins and did all of those things. And my pregnancy was so much better.
Oh yeah.
Like, with Lily, probably 20 weeks in, I couldn't get my wedding set on my hand because I was already swollen.
Right.
And by the end of it, I was wearing my father in law's shoes, his
Wow.
Crocs, because my feet were so swollen.
Wow.
Um, that's how bad it was. And with Zeke, I'm pretty sure that maybe I took my wedding set off when I went into labor because I didn't want to take it into the hospital. But like I didn't swell. It was a completely different experience. And I know it's because I knew more.
Yeah.
And in that time period too, our daughter started having issues. She was almost 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I had taken her just to a regular clinic. And they were like, "Oh, she's got a stomach bug." Every week, like for 4 weeks, every weekend, she would be sick every
Mm.
time. And I'm like, this is not a stomach bug that keeps coming and going.
Right.
And so Kimberly was like, "No, bring her to me. Like, let's check her out." And checked her out, and she was having issues in her gut with processing food, and it would not digest like it was supposed to. So every week we would have this problem, and it made me really aware of what I began to give her too.
Right.
And so now, because of that knowledge, and because of me taking care of her in that way and being aware of what was going on with her, if you ask Lily what she wants to eat, she wants a salad with flaxseed in it and apples cut up in it. Like
Yeah.
she eats that way and she's 6.
Yeah.
I'm blessed, blessed beyond measure with that. But it's because we started that and instilled that in her, and she knows that it's good for her.
Yeah. And she feels it.
Um,
Kids are real big on
yeah, you know,
feel.
yeah. Like she'll tell me. Like I think a couple weeks ago, I gave her a smoothie, and then the next day she had one too. and she had a little stomach upset. And she told me, Mommy, I probably shouldn't have had a smoothie like back to back like that. Like it was too much on her.
Yeah.
She's aware.
That's important.
Yeah. So, as you know, Kimberly closed her clinic in the summer of 19.
Yeah.
And so after that, in the midst of all of this, I had opened my own business. Things got really busy and having 2 kids and just life. And so, of course, that's when you and I started the health coaching program in 19. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had already talked about meeting, and then that's when I found out I was pregnant. And of course, lost the baby very early on, having some health issues, which spurned me on to, I think that's why our health coaching ended up being so timely and so good, because I was in such a mental hard place, because I felt like, well, I'm doing all of the right things. What happened? And I was, to a point, doing the right thing. But I wasn't paying attention to my supplements like I should. I wasn't keeping up with my blood work like I should. Knowing that I have an autoimmune condition, I wasn't paying attention to it. And all of that came together to spur me on to say, okay, like I have to focus on me. I have to put gas in this car first if I'm going to take anybody anywhere.
Right.
And I had just kind of let it go, having 2 kids. And so I began to look for, another provider. I did see a naturopath in Hattiesburg a couple times, and then found Linda Avery Harrison. So she has been a godsend. She is, I attribute to her talking to me about, again, what is your background? What is your life? What is your day-to-day?
Right.
What bothers you? She talks about all of the mental side of the thing, and then says, yeah, you do have this issue in your body, but this is what's also attributing to that.
Yeah.
And, she really pinpointed for me, like, okay, you are having issues with your neurotransmitters, and that's causing you to have this up and down of staying on your supplements and feeling good one day and not another. And the pivotal thing for me that I wish that all providers would hear is, like, when I walked out of her office the first time I met her, she said, stick with me and we're going to do this together. Like, 100%, not like I'm just going to write you this prescription and you're off. Good luck.
Right. Yeah. That's
It
a
was
mentored
like,
way.
I'm really invested in you. I really believe in you. I want to see you healthy. You have these kids, you have a family, you have a husband and a business, and you need to be the best version of you. And she said to me, when I said, well, I feel like, I'm okay, but probably not the best I can be. And she said to me, and this was true, you're not going to realize how bad you've been feeling until you see how much better you're going to feel.
That's right.
Like, when I started to feel that, she's like, you're going to look back and be like, how was I functioning? And
Right.
she's exactly right. I mean, she's 100% dead on correct.
Yep.
So
we need someone to say that.
Yes. Like, especially, sometimes there are things that you've said to me that hit me, and, I'm a note taker. So I'll write it down, and then somebody 2 months later will say it again, and then again, and it just reinforces that. And that's when it hits you and hits home, and you're like, I really need to pay attention to that.
Yep.
So
yeah. And what that's really true on a lot of things. Like, I've noticed I'll hear something or see something or even try something 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and I'm like, not for me. But I just watch it from, like, in my peripheral vision throughout life, and I see it, and then I'll go back and try it 3 or 4 times, or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, and that's with food, that's with supplements, that's with many different things. And that's happened to me recently, and I've dug into, like, I took a 23andMe genetic test before I even knew anything about it. I was just like, I'm going to figure out just test it. I'm always someone naturally curious of data. I want to know everything. If I can test it and I can act off that data and I can learn more about myself, then let's do it, because I don't like guessing. I've had to guess my health my whole life, and I've poked and prodded, and I've tried this and tried that, and I mean, you can do it that way, but it is long and hard. But if you smart like you are, taking notes, and you pay attention, and you're aware of things, you can be more precise and not just try every single diet or every single supplement.
That's
And
right.
you get
Well,
some.
I think too, like, and you and I talked about this. I'm totally not a go with the crowd person. Just not.
Yeah.
Pretty much if everybody is buying this black t-shirt, I'm like, no, I'm gonna get the white one. Like that's just the
Yeah.
way that I am. Until I come around, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good thing. I do want that. But I was never one of those people who does like this word of the year thing
Right.
until like year. And I think I told you how weird it was to me that this word kept coming back. Awareness. I'm like, awareness of what? And it basically was awareness of me and what was going on around me.
Right.
Because, you even said you were very big on in our program, like individuality.
Yep.
Everyone is an individual. Like and everyone has a different job. You're not going to expect in your body, like your eye to do what your hand is supposed to do.
Exactly right.
So, why would we say this diet works for everyone? You will get on this, and everyone who gets on this is going to lose weight, or a schedule. I've had ladies who are friends with me say, I just need help with scheduling out my day because some of them have kids in school and some homeschool and this and that. And there's not a one size fits all. I can't
Right.
just say, this is my schedule here, follow this, because it may not work for you because your personality is different, your kids' personalities are different. And I think that was the biggest thing that I became aware of is all those times that I had tried a diet plan or an exercise plan or a schedule or whatever that someone else had said, oh, this is it, this is the one, and it didn't work. Well, I got discouraged and dejected and was like, what did I do wrong? And why isn't it working for me? I had to realize that there's lots of options out there. You have to figure out what works for you. You have to be aware and be open to making changes here and there. And like one of the biggest things that Linda has said to me is she knows, and you know this from talking to me, like I like to be in control of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
That's
And the rest of the
probably,
alphabet too.
yes, like that's why I'm a numbers person. I like that they work out. I like that they add up and they work out and it's in a box.
Yeah.
I've had to learn two things. One is to control what's in my little box.
Right.
These are the things that are on my plate. These are the things. Obviously, I don't believe that I'm in grand control of all of it. I believe that the Lord is, but I am responsible for
What you
my
can control.
household. Yeah, my household, my home, what we eat,
Right.
the climate load I take on. I'm not responsible for my friend's family or the ultimate decisions of a business owner or any of those things. And the same thing comes to my health. It's good for me to be informed, but
Right.
I need to mesh with a health coach who can direct me when I get off path, with a practitioner who can say, here's the supplements I want you to take based on your labs, which I have studied and know about.
Right.
And I need you to just take them. And your part of the job is to tell me how you feel so we can adjust them.
Yeah.
Because was guilty of saying, "Oh, you want me to take these supplements and this medicine? Let me run home and look it up and see what these do." And that's not my job. I
Right.
have to trust someone else with that and work with them to get to my goal.
You're right there. And based on that, and that you said it a really great way, and I would love people to really focus on the way you said you just said it a different way that I always say: be an expert on yourself. You're a bio-individual person, but I want it told by someone that is not a health coach, that is a client that has been through it and realized, like, hey, I gotta know about me. I gotta stop worrying about you, and you're different. I'm not you. I can't feel you. I don't know you. But you, as you became an expert on Stephanie and you started to see, like, okay, I could do it like this. Well, because a lot of times in our meetings, it was more along the lines of, you would say, well, this happened and this happened. And I would just ask questions because I feel like that's my job. Just ask questions.
Mhm.
Well, now that you ask that question, well, maybe it could be that, and you're just talking it out. And as you talk it out, you learn more about yourself, and you learn, like, well, maybe I could look at it this way or I could look at it that way. What do you mean? And then I explain my question, and then over the course of an hour, I've maybe asked 5 or 6, maybe 10 questions max. But all along that way, I watched you become more self-aware, but also
Mm.
learn how to be, like, ask yourself these questions. And that's the one thing I saw you take away from my health coaching is, you're like, well, how do I really feel? How do I
Yeah.
feel about that? I mean, okay, I've taken it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It was supplement. I've taken it for a month,
Yeah.
2 months, 3 months. How do I really feel? Do I really feel like it's working or not? I want to try that and, know that it's working or it's not, and then make a decision. But you clearly got out of that analysis paralysis, because you and I both
Hmm.
suffer from that really bad. We can study all day long on something and know everything about it, but can't act on to cull it or include it
Right.
into what we do. And I wish every parent, every mom, especially, because mothers are extremely intuitive, and they, whether they know it or not, they're better connected to the family than anyone else. And by honing their intuition and their self-awareness, they become the best mom and parent that they can be, and that helps everybody. But that is also the same as a father and with a child as well. And it's really cool that Lily's learning self-awareness from you as you learn it, because she repeats your behavior. You're her
Oh,
role
yeah.
model, and that's the greatest parenting that you can give your kid is, being a better you. And
Right.
that's really cool. And one thing I want to ask you moving forward, because I'll talk forever about that because it's a big subject. I love it. But I want people to see things from a different perspective. So, how is it with owning your own business as a CPA, having 2 kids, being, like, at home every day with them, and going through that whole process? Are you homeschooling them? Are you in that
Yeah.
process? So
Yep.
that's another, big chunk on the plate. So explain to people, like, what's a day like, or what's, if you want to give it on a grand scheme of, this is how it normally goes. Just give us some idea of how it is to run a business at home and homeschool and be a parent, cook, and take care of the home and things of that nature.
When you say that, I feel like, how am I doing that?
Yeah,
It
right.
sounds
I
like
don't.
a lot.
It is
And
a lot.
and like I was there. I was there 2 years ago. I was there. Like, how am I going to make this work? And I would just say the overall thing is, like, if you want something bad enough, people say this all the time. You can say, "Well, I don't have time to do that."
Right.
But if you want something, you're going to make time.
That's
You
the
know,
secret.
if you want something bad enough, you're going to make the time. And so when I decided to go out on my own, I knew, like, in my heart, and Lily at that time was 3 and Zeke was 1. I already knew at that point that I wanted to homeschool.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, well, like way out of the box, and even with people saying, there's no way, like, there's no way, you're not gonna have time to do that. I'm like, yes, I will. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start my business. And I don't really know what that's gonna look like down the road, but I'm gonna start this business and I'm gonna homeschool these kids and it's gonna work out because there's just no other option. And it has been difficult, especially in the beginning of that, at the very beginning of me owning my own business. My husband was not working full time. He had been laid off the previous fall. So he was working several jobs. So sometimes he would work at night, and sometimes he would work in the morning and then be home in the middle of the day. And so schedules were really hard at
Right.
that point in time. It was hard for Lily to understand when I was working and when I wasn't because I was home.
Yeah.
So it really required a base structure of me setting aside a place in our house where this is the place where mommy works. Now, that place has been in 3 different locations in our house because I have learned over the last year to be very flexible. And I'll also say that when I started out, I had a client who became a very good friend of mine, and Laura Johns, you know Laura,
Yeah. I know,
and
Laura.
she was very, very instrumental in, because I mean, marketing is what she does.
Yeah.
So she was very instrumental in even speaking to me and saying, I would tell her like, okay, I need to market a little bit, because most everything I got to begin with was word of mouth, which I like because I know what I'm getting and they
Right.
know what they're getting from me. Um, and I told her, I don't really want to put a lot of focus on the fact that like I'm working from home, because I don't know if people are going to take that seriously. And she said, no, I think you need to play that up. Like, that's a huge deal that you are remote. You can do this for anyone, anywhere, and that you're doing this with 2 kids. Like,
Yeah.
it's an example for other people, and like for people in her business, they like to have someone who's remote and not always there all the time, that they don't have to, have that expense. So when she said that, it really opened me up to be able to be who I was, which is a mom who owns her own business remotely.
Yeah.
And it freed me. And like, it's been great to just like embrace that. And I've been able to bring on an employee this fall, and she's also a stay-at-home mom, and she works, just like I do, and we do everything virtually. And I think the beauty of this is, as crazy as I thought it was to try to do all of this last year and to do this virtually, like, look at what this year brought us.
You're right.
And how many firms and businesses and individuals had to learn how to work virtually.
Yeah.
And I feel like we were already ahead of the game
Yeah.
because
Definitely.
I was already set up to do that. So
Yeah.
it's not been a change. It's not been different for my kids. As far as working with them, like I said, they are now in the process of, they know now we may alter our schedule a little bit here and there based on what I have that week, but I try to line out everything the week before and
Yeah.
say, these are the days that we're going to run here or there, and handle this or that. And in the mornings, we do a little school, and then I do some work. We'll do lunch, and then I usually work after lunch, and we may do some school after that because she's only in 1st grade. So that's the benefit right now.
Right.
But it really, really does require a schedule, but also grace in that, you know, if we don't do all of her reading in one day, well, it's okay.
Yeah.
Or if I have to Maybe I intended to have a certain dinner that night, but a client meeting ran late or whatever else happened. Well, then we have a backup plan. So just being gracious with yourself, but to say that, yes, like it's not unachievable if you want to go after it. Like you can make it work where you can be home. You can market yourself to be able to work in the environment that you want and still be able to accomplish raising children and, um, you know, having a family, having family time. Nighttime is family time. There are times when I do work at night, and that works for us.
Yeah.
We put the kids in bed and I'll go do some work. That works for us. I would also say, like, probably the hardest thing for me to learn was to ask for help. And that stems from, I think that stems from growing up with a single mom.
Yeah.
Because I saw her do it all.
Right.
And the plus side of that is it made me very independent and be like, I can do it all. I don't need anybody's help. I can do it all. But that was also the downside is I don't need anybody's help. I can do it all. And you can't.
Yeah. Superhero syndrome doesn't work. We think we're a superhero. We end up dying that way.
Yes. Crashing. Yes. Yes. 100%. And, you have that mom guilt of like, well, I'm working right now. Should I really be over here doing this? Or, we had PB&J for lunch today. Should I have, something?
Yeah, right. Yeah, parent guilt, period. Something. Yeah.
And so I would just say, to recognize when you need help. Like I did a week where there's a girl in town who prepares meals.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm setting aside this in my budget this week and I'm paying for my meals.
That's great.
And I had breakfast and lunch already done so that all I had to worry with was the kids' food and not mine. Because, I think you and I have talked about this. My problem too is I get so engrossed in what I'm doing, I forget to eat or I forget to drink. But if it's right there and I can go to it and that helps me that week, by all means do it.
Yeah, totally.
If you can offload some work to someone, if you can hire someone to come in and clean your house because you and your spouse has been busy all month and it's a train wreck, pay the extra, let somebody come in and clean that house for you.
Yeah, you make more money and you're less stressed and you get more accomplished that way, and it's a better environment and it's worth the investment into having that taken care of. Because you get people to clean businesses and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So I would just say, like, if you anything like that you can find that you need help in doing, do that 100% and don't feel bad about it, because honestly, like everything is in a season, that.
Yeah, and you're right. Oof.
I mean, you may be in a really good season right now and you may be about to go into one that's going to be really hard, and you're going to come out of both.
Yep.
And you just have to be flexible and reach out for that help when you need it.
You're right.
Because I just know, like, whenever I'm not reaching out for help, that's when things start to plummet. That's when my anxiety goes up. And that's when I feel like things are not getting done like they should.
And that's really important to you. I can tell.
Yeah.
That's really good. I like that you are, when I first started talking to you when I was health coaching, you were kind of hiding in a way. You were a little bit hesitant, a little bit like, I don't know. And I kept asking, how are you going to grow? Like, where's your growth plan? You're like, I don't want them to find out. You said that, and it's like, I was so on board with Laura. She's so right, and I bring that back up because, everybody should hear that. Be yourself in business, as a parent, as, whatever that may be. Like, for instance, I don't know why God did this to me, and I say it like a victim, but it's really a blessing. My wife calls me the baby whisperer, And it may sound like I'm bragging, but I'm not. I just communicate with them. I listen, I understand them. And it's not just my kids too. Like, I just pay attention to the little people. And for some reason, I understand them. Like, I see a kid and we'll be going through their store and they'll be going, my my wife, or especially my son, he'll go, "That kid's crying, Daddy. He needs help." I said, "Yeah, he's got poo poo," or something like that. And Liam's like, "Really?" Yeah, Mama just can't hear it. Well, you and I can, but she can't hear it. And it's a funny, but really, like, my kids see me, and it's like ultimate every single time. I gotta pee, I gotta poop right now because Daddy's
Yeah.
here. And it's not like they don't get taken care of great all day. They do, but for some reason, the elimination communication happens with me. And
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they talk to me. And I say all that to say, you know, you teach people to be themselves from birth. And when they
Hmm.
see, like, when a kid sees you as their parent being who you are, weird, quirky, anxious, sad, mad, frustrated, whatever it is, they're like, well, I can be however I feel. And then I can be
Right.
constructive and I can be in control. But if we hide, which I have hid, I have harbored
Hmm.
my emotions, and I have, isolated myself and not been able to share, ask for help. I had the same thing happen to me. Things went downhill hard, and anxiety went up. I had some rough thoughts, and I totally agree with you. Like, you got to ask for help. You got to get out there and, be yourself and be bold. And I wish every human could hear that, because we're finally in the era of technology and knowledge that, you can have a business of underwater basket weaving on this right here in Zoom with thousands of
Hmm.
followers in their own underwater basket weaving, and whatever it may be, Pokemon Go, propane tanks, whatever it might be, painting, and you can make more than enough money, and you can enjoy what you do, being who
Yeah.
you are. Kids can be running around playing and talking and interrupting, and people love that. Like, I had my first health coaching client. She's got 5 or 6 kids. I think 5. That's bad, but I lost count there because there's so many of them. And one of her, not her youngest, maybe her youngest daughter, was actually still nursing, and she's a stay-at-home mom, has her own business. She's actually my first health coaching client, my first interview, first one I did when I started this interview process. Incredible. She had several miscarriages. Incredible person. But every single health coaching call we had, her daughter would come in and she would either lay on her or sit with her, and we had health coaching right there. And she would
Yeah.
try to, I was like, hey, it's cool. I'm cool with that. There's no problem. Maybe she'll learn something along the way about you or about the topic and really get something from it. But, your kid's not going to work with you if you work in a firm.
Right. That, well, and I can think of two clients specifically that my kids have built relationships with. Like, I
That's
will bring
special.
them by and they're like, because I said one time I had to bring them with me and they were a little rowdy that day. And um so typically when I go to a client, they're not always there. So I just go in, in their office when they're not there. And they came by, and I was like, "I'm sorry, they're a little hyper today." And he said, "We hired you knowing this."
Yeah.
Like, they believed in what I was doing. They believed in me being home, being present with my children, schooling my children, and that is why they chose me,
That's special. Yeah.
because they wanted to invest in that too.
Yeah. And they love
And
that.
yeah, yeah. And so I would just say, like, that has been so freeing to me, being honest with myself about how I am and being honest with other people, because we already have enough crap to deal with every
Yeah.
day, outside external things going on. So I don't want to be dealing with internal stuff too.
Exactly.
So if you
Yeah.
can just be yourself, because like you said about the kids, for a long time, I did have a lot of anxiety. I was nervous about, working, and there's a multitude of things.
Right.
Nervous about growing my business, nervous about working from home, nervous about taking on homeschooling, but not really talking through that and still trying to be the superhero.
Right.
And then, just having a day where, like most moms do, where you just want to cry because you're just done. You're like, okay, I've mentally worn myself out. And you may not say that to your kid, but your kid sees it.
Yeah,
And so
they do.
Lily started dealing with a lot of anxiety
Mm-hmm.
and, crawling into a shell because she was feeding off of me. So
Yep.
now I've had to pull her back out of that and say, baby, it's okay. And when she's dealing with something, you can see when she goes off in deep thought that we just talk through it. I'm like, it's okay. Let's talk through this because I don't want her to be that way and hiding herself or hiding what she's thinking. Because, I would say nothing we go through is wasted. 100%. If it's good or
Amen.
bad, not wasted. It's for something. And, I went from the thing that I used to always say was, what if I had done this? What if I had made this choice? What if I'd gone here instead? What if I'd worked here instead? What if I'd lived here instead? Everything was what if I had. And I was living in the past of what I could have chosen, but maybe didn't. Whereas if I take that had out of that question and say, what if I do this? Then I'm being proactive. And instead of saying, well, I'm sitting here because I didn't choose this, I'm sitting here right now in the present. What do I need to do to make this work or make it better or make it different? And it's just one word,
Yep.
but it changes everything. It's just perspective. It changes everything.
And everybody needs perspective, and we need to see each other's perspective from, many different angles, and we need to exercise that because I've learned, like, by questioning people, every single time I question a health coaching client or even a friend or whoever, I learn more about myself. I learn more about my struggle. I learn more about, like, you know, okay, how can I help that person see the way? Because the answers are all within inside of you. All of them are in your head. Like, everything you need to know, you already know. You just can't access
Yeah.
it. You can't figure it out, and you need some mentoring, some guiding, some coaching to get there. But it's not like, I don't believe anybody's actually giving you external information, and that's the key to your magic door that cures. I don't think it's that way. I think it's, that knowledge or whatever is deep inside and you haven't accessed it yet. And you need some prompting or some, guiding to it with information or with questions or, life experiences. I mean, how much did you learn as of your confidence level from birth? I mean, really?
Yeah.
I mean, that just watching that as a man watching a woman have a baby, even tote a baby. Like, I thought about that at one point. I was like, what if I toted 25, 30 pounds for 9, 10 months? And, or I did it the right way. Like, I progressively put on weight on my body in that position
Yeah.
as a personal trainer, exercise. Like, really, I love the body and the way it moves. And I just thought about that and I just looked at it and I'm like, yeah, I couldn't do it. There's no way. I believe I would tire out and die
Yeah.
because I've toted 60 extra pounds for a long time, and I had to get it off. I had to get it out. I mean, I could not do it because it pushed me to the brink of death, especially with my
Yeah.
sickness. So I knew in my mind, like, I couldn't hold 60 pounds on me for 10 months. And, it's gradual, blah, 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 but that's freaking hard. And
Mm-hmm.
watching a woman go through that, I get more confident of, like, I'm a human, I'm a man. We're the same species, so I got a little bit of that in me, and that's really special.
Yeah.
But it just I got more confident not only in the relationship with my wife watching birth, because if a man got ripped apart like that, no, he'd be dead. He's done. I think a man's way weaker than a woman because of that, but we both have our strengths. And I love watching a woman go from, you know, pre-pregnancy to after to the postpartum side of it, and watching their, evolution of a person in a micro sense of that, because it's two different people. I mean, they're astronomically different. I mean, sex does that. When you first have sex with your husband, and that whole process of it, those neurotransmitters have just seen heights that they've never been to, but it puts your brain in a different perspective. And I feel like that happens through birth. I feel like that happens through grief. Like when you go through something
Mhm.
really bad, like it kind of warps your mental processing and image and your outlook and your perspective in good and bad. And you got to see both and call it for what it is. It is a transformation, and you have to get stronger from that. And that part of that process, I feel like every person should learn from. You added stress to your plate by quitting your job and open your own business, having children, and it made you stronger. It made you a better person. And you went through a horrific struggle with a miscarriage. I can't imagine that. That's really difficult. It's really hard. I I actually interviewed someone last night that had a miscarriage, and she struggled with it really hard too. And I'm blown away by that. But you get going, and I feel like
Yeah.
in a way it made you a stronger and better parent from outside looking in. I don't live with you, but just watching
Yeah.
you go through the grieving process and go through the questioning, the self doubt, the like, what did I do wrong? And
Well,
it,
and I would say too, like it goes back to like you were saying about being transparent,
yeah,
because especially like through that process, I my husband was he was not stoic about it, but he was just him. And we would talk about it and he would let me cry through it or whatever. And it was months later before one day he just started to cry. And I was like, "What's the matter?" And he said, "I'm not over it."
yeah,
And I had never really asked him how he felt because he lost a baby too.
that's right.
Like
Yeah.
it happened to me and he had to watch it happen to me physically,
Mm.
but it changed him too,
Yeah, it did.
and it's not something that we really started talking about until that moment.
Yeah,
And I think that being aware of, especially as a family unit, like being aware of yourself as a person, but being aware of the other souls in your house
yeah,
and what they're dealing with and how they're processing and what they need to talk through. Because I'll tell you, like, you probably detected this going through our health coaching process. You did ask me questions, and I would be like, no, I'm here for the answers.
yeah,
I need you to
right,
tell me, but how do I know that? And you're like, and you would tell me that. You would say, you already know. If you need to write that question down, write it down. And you go home this week and you think about it. And
yep,
sometimes I would get home and I would be so frustrated because I would be like, how do I know this? And the longer I would sit and ponder on it, that was exactly the thing is I was holding myself up by not addressing what the underlying thing was. I didn't need for someone else on the outside to tell me the answer. That had not worked. I needed somebody to guide me through the garbage to say, you already know. Just accept what you're going through and feel it and you'll figure that out.
right,
And then it would just be like the light bulb went off. It'd be like, yes, 100%, yes. And I think that people don't do that enough.
you're right.
People hide a lot and people don't share. And when I was going through what I was dealing with the miscarriage and not knowing for a while, we didn't know if we were miscarrying or what was happening. I had like 3 people in my sphere of friends to say, "Oh, I went through something similar." And I'm thinking, "Why did you never talk about it? Why did you never tell me?" Like, I would have, for one, wanted to be there for you, but now, like, it would have helped me to get through this too. And if we could all just be open with our
You know,
experiences, be transparent, not be embarrassed about it, and say, this is where I've been, then how many other people can we help along the way?
totally. Yeah. That same conversation happened last night with the lady I was interviewing. And, she went through that miscarriage and she was like, I, I, I kind of broke down to my husband, but that was it. And I said, yeah, because you don't just start a conversation. Hey, I had a miscarriage. What about
Yeah,
you? That you don't have
right.
that.
And I don't
Uh,
have to t-shirt for
no,
that.
you don't just, hey, let's talk. And that conversation's weird, but man, it helps so much whenever you've been through, like if you lost a loved one at this point, or you lost your parent or your dad or whatever, mom or dad, or you lost your child, and there's a soul entanglement that happens, because I don't like people that want to machado, like be strong and you know, look over it and say, yeah, it was just it didn't take and it was a biological thing. No, once there's life created and that's happening, there's a soul entanglement that happens, because, I mean, there is actually a point where two souls are the closest they could possibly ever be when a child inside of a mother. And with that
Right.
soul, and I know I'm using the word entanglement a lot, but it is explained in the quantum physics, quantum realm of it, of where that soul is captured there. Maybe it didn't take, or maybe this happened, maybe the body wasn't ready, maybe you never know truly. You can't really test for it. We don't have those answers, but that right there is critical of seeing it as it is and not missing it and learning from it and saying, and being humbled by it. Because one thing you said was, I wasn't taking my autoimmune disorder serious enough. I wasn't, taking my supplements. I wasn't eating the best I could. I wasn't focused on my health. And you feel responsible for the miscarriage. It's natural. You're a mother. You're going to feel that way no matter what. Some of it could have been out of your control, but you do realize that a lot of it is in your control. And the one thing that I'm seeing long after our health coaching is over, you're at the point where you see things as they are and you only want to control what you can control. And you
Right.
don't, like before when I first started talking to you, you would, ask me a question and you'd say, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And you had read 42 articles. And
Mm.
it was like, yeah, but this says this and that says that, and they're saying two different things. And what do I trust? What do I know? I don't know. And it all come back to, and what the greatest thing I saw you learn from that process was what's true to Stephanie, what works or doesn't work for Stephanie. Does it line up with my needs, my wants, my desires? Is it really necessary for me? Instead of, well, does that work or does that work? Or they say this works really
Right.
good, but they said it don't.
Yeah.
And what do I do? Like I saw that
Yeah.
happen a lot. But looking
Oh
at you
yeah, I
now,
remember saying that. I
yeah,
remember saying that. It was yesterday. Like, here's this thing I'm supposed to do. Says it's good. This says it's bad. What do I do? But it's exactly like you said. And I think I have this thing about, I remember my mom saying this to me years and years ago, more than I want to tell you how many years it was. And she said to me, like, choices you make, for the most part, I mean, they're not permanent. When
right,
I was trying to decide, do I stay at Mississippi State and get my master's, or do I want to come home? Because at that point, I just wanted to come home. I was done. And she said, I think you'll regret it. I think you'll regret it if you don't go. You can go and start, and if you hate it, come home. There's nothing telling you you're stuck there. And I think that's what I was doing even with my supplements and my health, is I was like, oh, well, I got to know how this one's going to affect me before I take it, because, you know, but that's not the case. And I think that's been a big thing that Linda has walked me through too, of like, I'm going to tell you, this is what we need to do. These are the ones that are most important for you. Please do what I'm telling you to do. And if we need to alter this, then by all means, we'll change it.
yeah.
but let's try it.
Yeah, take
And when
action
I realized,
and adjust.
yeah, like, oh, okay, I'll do this. If it's not working, we'll change it. No big deal.
Right.
Like, it just makes everything easier.
Yep, you're totally right there. And I wish everybody would do that and fail. That's one thing that I know I catch a lot of people off guard with, but like when I ask you to track your food or what, just track everything, quantify everything and not in a stress me out, freak me out, count every calorie and be anorexic. No,
Right.
like if you can, it teaches you mindfulness, it teaches you self-awareness, it teaches you accountability, it teaches you to be
Mhm.
intentional, or it teaches you to be anxious, nervous, paranoid, uh, guilty. You choose what it teaches you, and you get to control that. And I have this really conflicting, honestly, it's conflicting desire for people to self quantify themselves. And why I say that in that way is because if it makes you nervous and anxious to weigh every day, there's two things that can happen. It can build your strength to show you that that scale is irrelevant, it's a number, and that's it. That you
Mhm.
can use that information to do good, or you are not in control of yourself. You let something else outside of you control you, and you need to fix that. Maybe it's don't get on the scale every day. Maybe it's control your breathing at 4 or 5 different 15-minute parts of the day, and you just control yourself in the whatever you're doing, and not let it control you and work your way back. But if you are influenced by how many calories you ate, or and I say influence, I mean like controlled, like mental space lost, like mental energy like problems with it, and you really got it teaches you something like I don't have control of myself. I'm
Mhm.
letting something outside of me control what's going on. Like I can grab some belly fat in the mirror, and that makes me stressed out. That makes me like sad, or I don't like myself, or I'm ashamed, or I'm disappointed in myself because I can grab some belly fat, and that's actually
Well,
external to you.
I think like one of the biggest takeaways from our health coaching was that I went into it saying, I want to, very lighthearted, I want to
Yeah,
lose 15 pounds. And during the process, and I remember telling you, I don't know if you remember this, but like when we found out we were losing the baby, I was like, I don't know if I need to continue right now. I think I need to wait. And you said, I think right now it's crucial.
right.
And I was so thankful that I continued because it was what I needed right then in that time. And I have not lost that 15 pounds that I thought I needed to lose, but I'm happy. Like I'm content with myself and I feel good about myself. And that was just that 15 pounds that I felt like I needed to lose was something I was fixated on at the time. What I
Right.
needed was to feel better overall, my health to feel better. And in my mind, I thought if I lose this 15 pounds, I'll feel better because I'll look better. And I got so much more than that. And I learned too, like you would tell me all the time, you totally called me out and said, you don't want to go through the process. You want this is where you are is A, and you want B, but you don't want to go through the process to get there. You got to go through the process.
Yep.
And you were 100% right. And you know, I think the biggest thing too that I learned and that I have been able to show to others is between you and a friend of mine and who I know you, I think, also have interviewed. And Linda has been like, I'm not going to judge you. I remember you saying that when I said that about keeping up with my food, like keeping up with a food log. And I said, I can't show you this. And you're like, why? It's just data.
Right.
It's data. I'm not going to judge you. Linda has said the same thing to me. Like anything you tell me in here, it's data to help me help you, you know. And I have a friend of mine who I was like, oh, I didn't want to tell you that. I don't remember what we were even talking about. Like I felt we were trying to do a meal plan together for a while. I fell off for a week. And I didn't want to tell her. And she was like, why? Like, do you think I'm going to love you less? And I think that is part of who I was in my younger years, is I thought if people didn't see me as perfect, then they found no value there. And what I've learned is it's data, it's things, it's not who I am as a person. And it's all relative, so it can all be changed. It's all a choice, it's all a daily choice of things you do, and then you just have to decide what you do with that.
You're right there. That's
And I mean, it's been the things that I've learned just in this health journey have also applied with my business, because all of my clients are individual too. And I could be a dictator and say, no, you have to give me your stuff in this format. This is the only way I'll take it. But that's not going to work. I have to look at each one individually and say, you know what? Your brain works best using a spreadsheet. Here, use this. Your brain works best writing it down on a piece of paper. If that's what works for you, that's fine. Give me that. And it's helped me all the way around. I mean, in my interaction with people, everybody thinks differently. And I just
yes.
have to love them through that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one thing I want to make sure everybody that's just watching this, they want to see, you're not saying that you're throwing out good practice just because someone's different. Like, you still got to drink water. You still got to, eat good food. You still got to go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, or at least get X amount of hours. I know being a parent, it's crazy, but you still got to say, okay, yeah, I didn't sleep for 3 hours last night. At least get another, maybe 2 hours, so that at 4 p.m. I can still, you know, you got to be flexible, but you still got to be accountable to good habits,
Right.
because yeah, I'm different from you, but the same good disciplined nature applies to everyone. You just got to make it work for you, and you
Right.
still, you got to plug and play your own game. But
For
the true principles, they stay the same. I just wish everybody could see both. People either want it, oh, you're just different, and you're different from me, and whatever you do, it's okay, or whoa, we're the same, and you do really good at it, and I suck, because
Yeah.
I would love people to say you can do it good and be your own person. That can be different from me, and it can work for you. Some people like to stay up later, and some people like to get up earlier. You need to find what works best for you. But um,
Right.
so one thing else that I really, and I know this is turned into an infomercial for me as a health coach, but no, that's not my goal. I really wanted to
Yes.
people
No,
to,
we did not. What was this like? This was not a paid interview. This was not discussed beforehand. But I
yeah,
really do think, I mean, people need to hear that, is that I I think that and you know this, when I said I want to do your health coaching program because I want to see what it's about,
yeah,
because that's how I am. I'm a questioner, I'm a researcher, and I want to know how things work.
right,
And my goal was, like I said, totally different. It was not about all around health. It was about, I want to lose this 15 pounds. Well,
right,
that's ridiculous. If that's all I'm trying to do, I could have got my butt on the treadmill every day. I mean,
yeah,
and so just, I want people to see too that, like, it is such a, I don't know, it's all encompassing. It's your, the period of life that you're in, the season of life that you're in, whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you have a job, whether you have health problems or you don't. Um, and working through the mental part of it too to get to your goals. And I just think that the program was really good to do that.
that's awesome. And what I've learned, like, to build on what you're saying there, I've evolved as a coach, and I didn't like the guessing part of my original, IIN, original certification. It teaches you intuition, and that's really important. You should learn that first. But I've even pushed it further and got to where I dig deeper and got into a more genomic base, or we look at genetic testing, lab work, and I'm in a educational program right now of that exact stuff with doctors, being taught by doctors. And I believe everyone should test, like you said a while back, where I wasn't keeping up with my lab work and things of that nature. Well, that's crucial, but you also got to learn, how to fix the mental blocks and change your neuroplasticity of your brain and get your brain, like take action and adjust along the way instead of paralysis analysis. So, oh, you're good. Hey, Lily.
Can you tell Mr. Tommy, hey? Oh.
Hey.
She's not going to step back over here now.
Got you. So, yeah, like I really wish everybody would test and learn, and like I've learned a lot from it. The reason why I push for that now and I ask for that out of my health coaching clients is because until I tested my genetic uh, testing 23 and my genetic code, my 23 and me. Like I found out I was MTHFR, SNP, and I'm sure there's more. I'm going to dig in deeper now as the more I learn about it. But I had to learn about methylation. I had to learn about my Genova stool diagnostic to find out what was going on, and then I made a plan based off of that moving forward. So it's very precise, accurate, and Linda talks about that. She had a preacher say, "Do you know the difference between a shotgun and a rifle?" And she said, "Yeah, a shotgun shoots a bigger, wide spread, and a rifle's more, it's a small shot. It's more precise." And he said, "You need to be more precise with your patients." And that's way before she got into this. And she talks about that a lot. And I really believe that's the best way to give people the best care, but also as a patient. That's how you should be the best patient for yourself. You should know what's going on in your microbiome through a stool test. You should know what's going on in your blood work. You should know what your hormones are doing through a urine or saliva test. So I said saliva. Yeah, saliva test. I said that messed up, but you should get to know all of that, and you should combine it all and include I feel like X. I feel like Y when I do this. And look at it in a holistic, integrative approach. And whenever you have doctors doing that and you have a health coach doing that, and they are different, and when they were all on the same team and we're all looking at that together, then we can work directly on what the doctor prescribes, and we can find different ways, different lifestyle things based off your genetic expression and your current condition, because they go together. And it cuts out a lot of the guessing and like try this, try that, and try this, and try that, because you can only treat or coach off of what you have in front of you, data. That's why I'm really big about video call. I can see your body language. I can ask you a question. I can see how you react to something. Like I can see you communicate without saying a word. And that is critical because the truth is going to come out in your body language, your facial expression, and your tone more than the words coming out of your mouth. Because many times, like even in our coaching client in person, I was like, "Is it really that, or is it something different?" And you'd say, "Well, now you didn't have to, and it's not that I'm digging into your personal life or anything, but I just want to get to the truth, and I want you to get to the truth. Like, is it really that, or is it something more to this than what you think of at the moment?" And I'd send you home with questions, and the reason for that is so you answer it multiple times, and then you rock on from there. So that that part there was it helped me a lot as a coach with people. But I'm not going to keep you on here much longer. I know Lily's really ready to have her mommy back, and I want her to have fun with you. Thank you for coming on and sharing what it's like to be a mom with homeschooling and your own business as a CPA, and going through some interesting health struggles, but also birth and recovery from that. So tell everybody where to find you and like connect Facebook or social media, whichever one you like the best. I don't. Everybody has their own favorite social media, so where can we find you?
So I have a Facebook page that would have my business information, my business contact information there. Don't post a lot because honestly, like I said, my business has grown and grown and grown by word of mouth, which has been great. But we are expanding and so taking on more remote clients. And so I know for those people, they'll want to have a place to go where they can see my contact information. So you can just find me. It's just Stephanie Higginbotham, CPA, PLLC, or they can email me at stephanie@higginbothamcpa.com, which is a mouthful. I'm not going to spell that, but
Oh, they can find you.
I'll,
They need to
like
struggle on it.
they'll find me, they'll look me up, or if you
Yeah,
post this to Facebook, you can tag me.
great.
But
I'll
like I
do
said,
that.
there's not a whole lot out there, but that's how they can find me.
Perfect. I'll definitely tag you and post it after I edit it, and it's gonna take me a little time on that one, but yeah, I will. I'm getting a little bit faster and learning and pushing myself, and it's very humbling to learn
Oh,
something new. But yeah, definitely. Thank you for coming on, and maybe we can talk about something different next time if you want to get back on. But I'm glad that you got on and you shared your perspective from, not only as a client side, but as someone that is not in the structured box that everybody is, most people, not everybody, but most people live in, and that it can be done your own way and your own flavor. And it is actually the best way to live life, even working for someone or working for yourself.
that's right.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.